Hi everyone, this is Tom Vogel with Wrestling's Finest PC Game, coming to you today with my first attempt at doing an audio newsletter. A little background with Wrestling's Finest PC Game, I periodically release newsletters that discuss certain aspects of the game, mainly kind of go behind the curtain a little bit, tell you what's been going on with the game, what we're currently working on, and then I try to give some game tips, maybe some hints how to make things even more, give all my gamers a little bit more enjoyment out of the game, as they learn the ins and outs of many of the features the game has to offer. Now, in this video, we are going to just highlight the game tips, and I'm actually going to do a hands-on demonstration on what the newsletter actually discusses with these things. There are several things in the newsletter I talk about that you really can't show on your screen, because it really, for example, I talk about what's ahead with Wrestling's Finest and what I've been working on. So for this one, first thing we're going to talk about here is what I call we'll just use the example where you use a heel wrestler, but you want him, or let's do it the other way. Let's say we have a face wrestler, and for whatever reasons, maybe an angle, something occurred in the gamer's wrestling world where you might want to have the face wrestler wrestle more like a heel. Now, I know gamers do it, and it is possible to make some adjustments, but what I really want to point out is that if you do go about using that approach, that's fine, but there are going to be some shortcomings to do that. So let me just give you an example. So let's say, for example, you want to take Wahoo McDaniel and you want him to wrestle, you want to turn him slightly heel. Now, Wahoo might be a poor example because he does have a heel rating, but let's just say he doesn't for purposes of my example. So what you can do is when we go to our match, what sometimes people will do is they'll go to Wrestler 1 Trades. Now, when we do the trading of holds, what some gamers will do is they'll go through the list of what we call legal hammering holds. And they, arm holds, throws, drags, speed moves, leg holds, nerve holds, neck holds, whip, ropes. That's when you fling a guy into the ropes. Headbutt. Then we have chops. Notice how Wahoo's a master of the chop, -8. Brutal chops. Power moves, forearms, elbow smash, knee smash, and leg drop. Then each wrestler is also rated for illegal hammering moves, which would be hair pulls, face rake, eye gouge, choking, biting, turnbuckle, throat chops, low blow, and punches. So what you could do with Wahoo is you could take out, let's say, arm holds, and let's take out, how about we take out throws and drags, and then how about we take out neck holds. Okay, these are all legal hammering, and we're going to trade these to illegal hammering. So let's say he wants to trade one. We could go, let's say he wants to do a face rake. Let's say he'd like to do, what I try to look at is what are the opponent's counters out of 40. And so here you'll see, like, choking, he's a -6. His opponent's a 5. So what we're going to do here is we're probably going to trade, let's just go simple here, and let's just trade it to a low blow, and then let's trade it to punches. So you'll see here Wahoo's trading out of 3 legal holds, and he's trading them to 3 illegal holds. So that, of course, will make him do more heel things. And it probably works out pretty good when he's facing a heel, just because, you could see him having a tendency to do heel moves, when facing somebody like Ken Patera. And that does lead in, you can always do the option called Wrestler Has a Grudge, where it's basically a grudge match where the face wrestler is trying to exact revenge on his opponent for doing something either to a friend or to him or a tag team partner, or like maybe Ken Patera at some point ripped up Wahoo's headdress. So that's an option there. The problem you have is if Wahoo was facing another face and you wanted to make Wahoo more heelish by trading the moves we talked about. But let me show you the card and some of the issues that come up here. So on Wahoo's card, everything seems pretty good here. But if you look, even by trading those holds that we traded, Wahoo's going to have an interference of 2. That's outside help, which is, typical face rating. They're usually 1, 2, or 3. Heels are usually going to be at least 6, and some are all the way up to 10. So as a heel, Wahoo, if you want to wrestle him as a heel, his interference rating is going to be way too low. But you're forced to use that, if you elect to try to make him a heel. The other thing is outside ring rating is a 6. That's his outside counter rating for outside ring moves is a 6, which is awful high for a heel. That should be more like a 3, 4, or 5 at most. You'll also notice up here Wahoo's outside ring and disqualified ratings. These are, for a face, they're actually fairly high because Wahoo, had that short fuse and all. But as a heel, they'd even be higher. So again, you're kind of punishing him here a little bit because he's not necessarily going to do heel things here, even though you traded the holds that we did earlier. The other thing to look at is this 3. That's an illegal pin rating. That's based out of 1 out of 10 again. Most of your faces are going to be, 1, 2, 3, maybe a 4. Most of your heels are going to be, 6, 7. Most of them probably are 7, 8, 9. You're going to have a few 10s. So, you're just not quite going to accomplish what you're trying. Specialty moves, heel typically will have a foreign object, and you'll see that Wahoo does not have a foreign object. If you use strategy cards, he could get a foreign object card, but I think there's only 2 in the deck, so the chances of him getting one are very slim. So anyway, that was pretty much all I wanted to mention on the heel to face situation. So if you do want to, make a guy more of a heel and he's not rated for that, just be aware he'll do a few moves as a heel, but overall his rating still is as a face. All right, next topic. We have Wahoo up here against Ken Patera, and I wanted to mention this. This is very important. Let's say you want to do a specialty match, and let's just say Wahoo's specialty is the strap match. So we're going to select strap match for this. Going to click done, and you'll see up here it tells you it's a strap match. Now here's something that's very, very important whenever you use one of our specialty matches. Let me show you these here real quick again. You see it's basically going to be no DQ, cage, all the way through probably would be through the go for the mask. Anything in here, what I'm going to tell you will apply to this. And like I said, we're going to have a strap match, but what you want to do is under match setup, you want to click Wrestler 1 Trades. And you'll notice here, the default setting is for every wrestler, you'll see this box is checked. It says reduce DQs, double DQs, and outside ring action. By having that box checked, you'll have less chances of DQs, and it will slightly reduce your outside ring action. It will also reduce your double DQs. Now, like I said, you only time other than a specialty match that you might want to consider unchecking it is if you don't care if a wrestler gets DQ'd. Pure and simple. You're just going to have more DQs, double DQs, and outside ring action if you uncheck the box. I know sometimes when gamers use heel champions, they might uncheck that box just because the DQ is as important for a champion, because he gets to retain his title if he is DQ'd or double DQ. I don't do that only because if you uncheck it, it can mess with the match times. Now, the point of this is anytime you have a specialty match that I just went over, the list of them, what you'll want to do only for the face, I'm going to say that again, only for the face, you'll want to uncheck this box. Because in most of your specialty matches, you're not going to have as many DQs, countouts, double countouts, because if they do occur, they're only coming from the specialty match chart. The DQ chart is not used in any of the matches I mentioned. So basically, the wrestler doesn't care if he's going to get DQ'd because he probably can't, or it's very, very unlikely, especially, if you're in a cage or a no DQ match, you're not going to have a DQ. I think it's impossible the way we have it set up. The reason you want to check it for the face is he will get to use more radical, I guess, ratings for outside ring activity, and even on his DQ rating. If a DQ check comes up during a specialty match, the wrestler will either get to choose an arm hold or a punch instead of doing any DQ check. So there's no penalty for the face, by unchecking this box. You do not want to uncheck it for the heel. By unchecking it only for the face, what you're getting to do is level the playing field just a bit. Otherwise, since the heels naturally have more outside ring numbers and chances, they are going to, already have an advantage going in. So we're trying to level the playing field. If you have two heels wrestling each other, you could uncheck it for both of them, the box for both of them. If you have two faces wrestling, which would be rare, I'd probably uncheck it for both of them. But anytime you have a heel versus face, like in this example, you have Wahoo McDaniel the face, Kenny Patera the heel, strongman Kenny Patera, sorry, you would want to uncheck this top box for Wahoo. And I'm going to show you real briefly what that actually kind of means. So if we go back to Wahoo's card, if you notice here under, let me box this up here, if you notice under disqualification outside ring, these are called the disqualified range, those two numbers, and this is your outside ring range. If you uncheck, for most matches, when you keep the box checked, the wrestler will use his second number. So you see Wahoo's a 17 for DQ, and he's a 21 for outside ring. If you uncheck the box, then Wahoo will use a 22, and he'll use a 25, which means, again, he'll have more opportunities to especially have the outside ring action occur. So keep that in mind. Wahoo's a 25-21 here. I want to show you a strongman Kenny Patera's card. So we're going to exit out of that. We're going to go strongman's. You'll notice here Ken Patera is a 27-23, and we're not going to uncheck the box, so he will be a 23. Now remember, Wahoo's a 25, so you might think, well, that gives him a bigger advantage. Not necessarily, because Patera has a rating here of 8. Wahoo's a 7, which can come into play. But also, Wahoo's outside ring numbers are 94-99, where strongman Kenny Patera is 93-99. So he actually has a full one more number chance. So this will level the playing field. And if you look back in the history of wrestling, not by any means saying all the time, but when you ran specialty matches, especially if they were the blow-off match of a feud, typically the face won the match. I mean, it's just the way they were booked. So not necessarily we're trying to make the face win, but we do want to make the playing field a little bit more level, and that's why it's very important for the specialty matches. You uncheck the box for the face. So one more time, real quick, you would go here, wrestler 1, who's Wahoo. Make sure this box, when we start, again, the default is checked. So you just simply come in here, uncheck the box, click OK, and then you're good to go for the match. Okay, our next topic here, our last one, we'll actually go through an example, is the Texas Death Match. I'm not a huge fan of these. I like how they're represented in Wrestling's Finest, but real quickly, Texas Death Matches all over the country, they were done different ways. I believe in the NWA mainly, they were fought where after a wrestler lost a fall, he had so many seconds to answer, I guess, the bell or the referee's command to have the match continue. The winner of a Texas Death Match in these formats was it was declared when one wrestler could not continue. How the matches were typically booked was each wrestler would win, 1, 2, 3, 4 falls, and then finally, wrestler would not be able to answer the bell, and therefore the match would be over. Now, other places, I think like the WWF, back in the Bob Backlund days when I used to follow it, real close, Texas Death Matches were basically no DQ matches. The winner was declared if he pinned or forced his opponent to submit. In Wrestling's Finest, we have both the true, I guess you'd call them the true Texas Death Match, where falls occur, but it doesn't matter how many you win or lose, just can you answer the bell. And then we have the no DQ match. Now, the reason I'm not a huge fan of the Texas Death Match in real life is they built the suspense with the fans by having, several falls occur. So the challenge in Wrestling's Finest, how do you replicate that to occur? So what I want you to make a note of here is we'll look at Wahoo 28-25-2 for his pin and his submissions 9-3-0. In the same adjustment will be made to Strongman Kenny Patera here in a second, but let's just focus on Wahoo. So you go in here, we're going to change our match type, and we are going to go Texas Death. Now watch what happens up here on the 28-25-2 when I click Done. See how his third number goes from 2 to 5, and his submission actually goes from 0 to 3. Now, and you'll notice Patera, same thing, went up 3, his third pin rating, and his third submission number went up 3. Now, like I told you before, we want to go in, and now we do have Wahoo's already unchecked, so we're good because it is a specialty match. Now, what happens is, it's pretty simple actually. You run the match just like you normally would, but both wrestlers will have a much greater chance of being pinned just because their ratings are bumped so high. Now what happens is, let's say Wahoo gets pinned. Before the next fall starts, the game internally, the computer game, will do a check to see if Wahoo can answer the bell. But the pin rating that's used is his pin rating without adjustment. So let's say Wahoo got pinned before his stamina rating of 77 was reached. If we don't do the adjustment, his pin rating, remember, would be 28-25-2. So in this case, if he got pinned right now, the computer then would check to see if Wahoo could answer the bell using his pin rating of 28-25-2. Now that does change based on where his stamina level is. So the more times he gets through his stamina level, the higher his pin rating will be when that second check is made. So basically, every time a wrestler loses a fall, a second check is done. So in essence, he has to be beat twice. So for Wahoo at 28-25-2, it's going to be kind of hard to turn that. So the chances of him losing one fall, and then having the match end are going to be pretty slim. The real disadvantage is when a heel has to face somebody like a Bob Backlund, who has a pin rating of, and I'm trying to remember, if you designate him a champion, it would be like 16-12-1. So, sure, he might lose a fall here and there because that 1 would become 4, because like I mentioned, the third pin rating is raised by 3. What would happen then is you'd revert back to see if Backlund could answer the bell, and you'd now have to go back to the 16-13-1. if he was in the first stamina. So it's very, very hard to beat a wrestler who has a really good pin rating, especially the champions. For somebody like Backlund, Thez, Bruno, Hogan, virtually anybody in the champion set, Verne Gagne, it's going to be very, very hard, I mean almost impossible, to beat them in a Texas death match. And what you're also probably going to find out is they don't even lose that many falls. So, you know, just be careful when you use a Texas death match. Know kind of what you're getting into. But again, they come out very realistically and accurate, you know, the way we have it, you know, programmed in. If you're trying to mirror what I call the Texas death matches from the NWA, and, you know, especially down south, is how they were used. Final thing I want to mention before I close this out, nothing I'm going to show you, but I just want to mention what a great time we had this July of 2017. It's been a while since I put a newsletter out. I think probably been about 9 months. Just had a lot going on. But July 11th, 12th, 13th, I think 11th through the 15th, I was joined by my real good friends, John, Ed, our newcomer, Mitch, and my little brother, Herman, all joined us here in our home here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And we had I believe it was our 6th annual WrestleFest. And basically what that means is they come in from St. Louis, Minneapolis, Wisconsin, and Buffalo, New York. Everybody gets here, and everybody arrived this year on Tuesday the 11th. And it's basically we hunker down and watch approximately 10 hours of wrestling, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We probably watched about 4 to 6 on Tuesday, and then we might watch a couple more Saturday morning before everybody leaves for their home destinations. It's a no-nonsense, fun-filled days of wrestling. We call it our dungeon, our basement. We've got a pretty good setup, you know, a lot of space, comfortable chairs and couches and everything. And John provides our DVDs, incredible collection he has, not only the variety but the quality, and unbelievable. This year we watched some Florida, we watched some Houston, and we watched some Mid-Atlantic, and then we watched a few shoot interviews, which are always entertaining and interesting. Mitch, like I said, was his first year, was a great addition to the group, fitting, you know, perfectly. You know, we brought our paraphernalia. Ed brought his Harley race chair, his Bruno bottle of wine. Mitch brought a whole bunch of old wrestling magazines. We had a bunch of wrestling books, you know, available to look through. Herman devoured my AWA record book. And John brings, like I said, just countless DVDs. So we have some really good meals, but it's basically wrestling. We don't watch news, we don't watch movies, we don't play cards, we don't go to bars, we don't do anything but eat, sleep, and watch wrestling. And it's a great time, great guys. Unfortunately, this year my wife and I are planning on moving, and we'll have to have a 1-year hiatus from WrestleFest, but rest assured, starting back up in 2019, hopefully we'll do it again in July. We will have another WrestleFest, which will be our 7th one. It'll just be a new location, but hopefully our regulars will be able to attend. One thing that is a tradition in our WrestleFest, we make our customary call to both Bob Jenkerson, who was unable to attend this year, and then the guru who makes wrestling's finest go, my very close friend Gary. We get a call, talk to him a little bit, you know, mainly thank Gary when we talk to him for all the great work he's done with the game, and probably bombard him, especially my brother Herman, with some ideas he has for the game. So that will close out this newsletter. I probably will continue to do these. I'll probably try to shorten it, but I think it's important if I can hand walk people through these game tips to make the process easier, and for hopefully for all gamers to understand the features that come with Wrestling's Finest, so you get the most enjoyment possible. Again, thank you everyone. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.